Morning folks, just a couple of things this morning. I'm running a competition. It's up on Instagram. There's a few things up for grabs. There's some lures, pack of jig heads, pack of soft plastics, an IMA, hand glide, um, some nice offset hooks, etc. Now I know not all of you are on Instagram, so if you're not on Instagram and you can't see all of that, what you got to do is like this and subscribe. Sorry, I just got to dismiss this. Subscribe to the comment in this and tag in two of your fishing buddies who you think are on YouTube or whatever. But the main thing is you like and subscribe to the channel, right? To enter the competition, and a winner will be picked sometime before Christmas. But it's a nice little bundle. The Western W3 is not the best sea bass rod in the world, but it gets the job done. It's the 12 to 42 gram. It's the kind of rod you're going to use in the surf, right? Or heavy ground fishing, you know, throwing big heads if you're pollock fishing in the winter or anything. It's not a bad piece of kit for that kind of carry on. It certainly wouldn't be my go-to rod in the estuary or anything, but let's not put it down. It's still a nice price. So rather than talking about lures and all of that, because I've been doing a lot of that and talking a lot about the website and what's coming and all the rest of it, and that's all fine. But really I'm far more interested in the actual, is it an art, or, you know, the practice of bass fishing? Like, how do you bass fish? Like, how do you get halfway decent at it? How do you figure it out? And there are a few for the beginners, because I know it's a lot of beginners who are watching my channel, right? The more experienced guys are like, oh, old hat to them, right? They know it all, right? Which is fair enough. What do you do? Well, my first advice is get onto Google Maps and pick your spots, right? Have a look around, put it onto the satellite, have a look and see, you know, what beaches or bays look like. They might, you know, it can be a bit misleading. Sometimes a place will look really good and no, it's no good at all, right? The other thing is go to your local tackle shop, you know, and ask them, where are guys catching a few bass? You know, if you buy a bit of tackle, I'm sure they'll be more amenable to talking to you about it or whatever. Buy a couple of lures, get chatting with the guys that are in there. They're going to be the guys who are absolutely expert in your area, right? But how I approach it is, the most important thing is to go there first at low tide. If you go at low tide, you get to see exactly what you're fishing over, right? I have a rummage around. I look in the rock pools. I see what's there. Is there goby there? Is there shrimp there? You know, at night on the beaches, I'm looking for, are the sand eel here? You know, there's one beach at home, and if the sand eel aren't hitting your boots, go home, because the fish just won't show up, right? You might get one or two that just cruise by or whatever, but you certainly won't get like the 10 or 15 that you're hoping for, right? So that's it. Get there low tide, see what it looks like. Have a look for the gutters, right? So, you know, the gaps between the reefs. Bass will hang up on the top of a reef, but from my experience fishing in the boat, I notice that a lot of the times they seem to hang on the edge of the reef. So here's the reef and they sit on the side of it. I think it's because it gives them a bit of camouflage or whatever, and it's an easy ambush spot. Have a look for places where there's a patch of sand and reef on either side. That's going to be a hot spot, right? So you're going to want to fish the whole of that, right? The other thing is, at low water, you'll be able to figure out you know, how far am I able to throw my lure? So what zone am I actually fishing in, right? I sometimes use the jigging braid, right? Not because I'm jigging, but because it gives me an idea of, you know, oh, okay, it's pink. They're at pink, right? When the line hits pink, that's where I've been getting all the hits. So the fish are sitting there. And I can tell you from cruising the coast in the boat that you could be on a rock mark shore fishing, right? And there's literally a stack of bass hanging off one rock, and you are 10 feet away and you're not touching a fish, right? So what does that tell you? Well, it tells you keep moving, right? Don't just stand in one spot and fish, right? There seems to have become as well this kind of idea of everybody's fishing just paddle tails. And look, I like paddle tails. I fish paddle tails. I've got some Patrick Sebile paddle tails coming in that I think are just going to be totally awesome. I mean, these things, you could stand on the tail and pull it up to here and it still won't break. They're just amazing looking, and they're a lovely range of colours. But the paddle tail fishing has become incredibly popular, and that's fine. But there are lots of other ways to catch bass, and they don't always want a paddle tail, right? So it's not just a case of just stand in a spot, chuck it, and wind it back in and see what happens. Yeah, you'll catch a few bass, but you could catch an awful lot more bass if you thought about it a bit more and put a bit more work into really getting to know that spot, that piece of ground, right? Like, what state of tide did the fish show up on that mark? I have marks at home that low water, totally dead. High water, always three, four, or five big fish hanging around, right? Other spots, high water, you might as well be throwing it into the dustbin now as throwing it into the sea. But you start to get towards the low water, and next thing you know, the fish are there, right? The other thing about showing up is I'd kind of come like 2 hours before the low, right? Because then you'll see what it is you're fishing over. If you're going to fish the last 2 hours of the dropping tide and the first hour of the push, and the first hour of the push, excuse me, I'm going to vape. First hour of the push is often a really, really good time to fish. Why? I think it just switches the bass on, right? Like, really, when you're bass fishing, you're fishing for two types of fish. Like, you're fishing for fish that are actively feeding, and they're easy to catch. You'd catch them on a carrot with a treble hook in it. But then you're also fishing for fish that are just standing, right? They're just not doing a whole lot. Like, I was stood on a bridge this summer, and I saw a shoal of bass, you know, in the 5-6 pound category, literally come right in under my feet and just go into a weed bed, right tight, just below me, paid me absolutely no heed at all. If I'd had a sleeper craw or something and dropped it in on top of them, I'd have had one or two of them out, you know what I mean? Certainly had one out anyway before I spooked the rest of them. So get there 2 hours before the low water so that you know what you're fishing over, right? Chances are, if you're fishing the coast and it's rocky and reefy and bubbleweed, you're going to be fishing some sort of offset, weightless or weighted offset hook, right? Because otherwise you're going to lose everything you own if you're going to fish soft plastics, right? You can fish surface lures, you can fish hard lures. I mean, the feed shallow is an extraordinary lure. It's as good today as it was 20 years ago. It really is. I still just will not go out without it. It's just a fantastic lure, and it'll fish in that top. You know, it only goes down 2 inches, right? So you don't have to worry about it. You're not going to snag it up, right? You can fish it in the skinniest of water. So when you get there, then you'll know, right? And as the tide floods in, you'll get to see what comes on the flooding tide, right? Now, the other thing to look out for obviously is birds. Are there birds feeding, right? If there are terns dipping, um, always a good sign, especially if they start to come in and dip in close. That means there's little balls of sand eel or some sort of sprat or bait close by, and that means usually there's bass are not too far away. What I really like to see is cormorants. If I see cormorants working the kind of low water mark, I know we're in here. There's going to be some fish around, right? Um, there's kind of varying opinions on seals. Some lads hate seeing them show up, right? And no doubt when there's a load of them, it's an absolute curse, right? I mean, I remember getting smoked in Rosslare one night. I mean, the thing just absolutely smoked me. It grabbed the bass, and I wouldn't mind. It was my favourite gunfish, It was that, is it French Wakasaji or Wakasaji? It was the brown and white one with red nose. It was a beautiful lure. Like, I loved that it had loads of fish on it, and boom, the lure was gone. So, but there's kind of mixed opinions about seals. Personally, I don't mind them. If there's 2 or 3 of them out there, I think they just drive the bass closer to the shore, right? It's not that the bass stop feeding, right? They don't. They just drive closer to the shore. Night fishing, right? So never night fish on a mark you have not been on, or you're going to lose your life. I found that out last summer, and it was during the day. I was walking along a beach, looked totally benign, just walking along, and boom, I fell into a 10-foot hole. I had to take all the stuff off me to clamber out of the hole, then take the waders off, get back in, and get my kid out. I mean, just incredible, right? If that had happened to me in the night time, So always think about safety, right? And remember, like some rocks, they're like absolute glass. Like down here, I'm in West Cork at the minute. The rocks are like glass, and you'll go on your arse. And if you're my age, I'm 51, although I know you would think it's look at me, right? I'm 51, so I don't want to be falling. Like, I certainly don't want to be falling and getting left sitting on the rocks waiting for the tide to come and get me. So try and fish with a buddy. It's more fun fishing with people anyway, as long as they're not like super competitive. I can't fish with super competitive people. It does my head in. Like, fellas who start getting upset when you're catching a fish and they're not. And I just can't be doing that. But anyway, so where was I? Yeah. So just getting to know your ground is really important. And then at high water, you're not going to be able to see anything, but you'll know what's there, right? And, if you fish, I like to fish usually the high back down, right? And I'll know the rocks, etc., and the holding spots, and I'll know at the back of that rock there's a big patch of bubble weed. I'll throw a weightless lure in there and see if there a bass sitting in it. So really, 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 that's it's way more important than, having XYZ custom rod or blah, 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 blah. A fella could come along with a Shakespeare €40 rod, and if he knows the ground, he'll outfish you hands down. Like, it's like you can have all the gear and no idea, So really, that's the message I'm trying to get across is, pick a spot. If you know there are bass there, then fish it at all states of tide. Get there on a spring low and see what it looks like when the water is totally gone off it, right? I'm trying to think of anything else. No, that's pretty much it. Like, bass are creatures of habit, right? They tend to do the same things over and over. They'll be in the same spots on the same tides, You know, I've seen photos of the same fish caught in the same place the following year. And it's definitely the same fish. You can tell from the fin, right? It's like, oh my God, what a creature of habit, right? Um, but just get to know your ground, fish it hard, fish it at all states of tide, because you'd be amazed when they're there, right? Things to look out for are nice gutters and gullies where they can hide and wait to ambush stuff. If you get a little tidal rip that forms up on the edge of a beach or something, always cast into that, because a lot of times there'll be a bass sat down right in the bottom. You know, I've had some stonking big bass out of the side of a headland, right? If you're approaching a beach, you know, always fish both sides of it, because both sides will be holding fish, right? Like there's a harbour here in Ireland, and there's fish on one side that don't cross over to the other side. They stay on their own side, and the fish on this side stay over on their own side. It's mental, right? Found that out from the tagging program or whatever. So, or at least that's what I was told. So I'm just taking people at face value. It could be bullshit, but yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's like Watercraft. It's not like some kind of secret society or something. It's just about knowing what's there. And then, you know, we discussed matching the hatch. Yeah, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. You just can't. And then it's about finding something that will get a reaction strike. And for that, I love my hard lures. Like there's nothing like the thump of a good hard lure. When you can feel a good hard lure going boom, 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 you know. And try various retrieves, right? Try slow and steady, right? Try fast, try give it twitch, right? Because some days they want it different ways, you know. They're funny creatures. I'm 30 years doing it now and I still haven't figured it out, right? And don't ignore the surface. Like the surface is fantastic. It's like, you know, everybody is, oh, it's an amazing fish to catch off the surface. But I actually find fish easier to catch off the surface. Now, I'm fishing super skinny water or whatever. Like my two favorite ways of fishing are surface lure fishing and then kind of stick baits, right? So the likes of the bait that myself and Charles Nelson from Seawolf Lures are going to make together, designed by no less than Clive Power in Waterford, who did a fantastic job. I mean, it's just a beautiful bait. But those are my favourite ways to fish, right? Because it allows me to do all sorts of stuff, particularly the weightless soft plastics. I can put those in places that you could never put a hard lure. And the same with surface lures, you know. Like I can put a surface lure into, you know, 6 inches of water and know I'm going to get that lure back, right? And finally then, night fishing. So only fish marks you're familiar with. Headlamps. They're lethal. If you shine them on the water, whatever bass were there are gone. They're just gone. Boom. It switches them off. They hate it. Like, you know, now fellas will come at me and say, oh, that's not true. Da, 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 da. Well, grand, you believe whatever you want, but I've actually seen it happen, right? And, you know, I'm fishing with Charles a long time, and he agrees with me. The only light to use is the red light, you know. Fine to use the white light when you're back up on the beach, but if you're in the water changing lures and stuff, I'm using that red light and nothing else. And I'm turning my back to the sea so that the light is shining in. That's why, you know, I've always been looking for the right lure bag, right? And up until now, I've been using the Sakura waist bag. I have it here, hang on one sec. So, this guy here, the Sakura one, right? Now, the problem with it is that it's hard to get into, right? It's hard to access. There are not that many pockets, and it won't carry that many lures, or it doesn't allow you to kind of, there aren't enough slots, if you know what I mean. So I've ordered in the new Ultimate Fishing bags, and they look amazing, right? So the strap for your waist is designed in such a way that when you bend down, even if the bag is open, nothing will fall out, right? And how many times have you gotten home? I know I have gotten home and gone, oh my God, where's my box of needles? You know, it's on the beach somewhere, washed away. So not only are we harming the environment, but I'm harming my bank balance, right? And fishing's an expensive hobby, right? But it could be worse. You could be playing golf. Imagine that. Imagine finding yourself in a diamond jumper with a pair of yellow trousers and white shoes on yourself on a Saturday morning. No thanks. I'd much rather be, you know, waist deep in an Atlantic surf beach, you know, throwing 40 grams of metal at some angry sea bass. So I hope that's helpful. Like, I know I rambled a bit this morning. It's hard to stay on topic sometimes, but you know, watercraft is not, it's not magic or something that's elusive or whatever, you know. And actually most of, like, guiding, guys say, oh, you're a fishing guide. Well, no, not really. What I tend to do, what I'm best at, is I show guys how to fish so that they can bring it home to their own ground and go, oh, okay, that looks like that, and then I'll look there, and that's where the fish will be, and there's a pinch point in the estuary where the fish have to go past you, so you know you're covering all the fish as they come out, right? Yeah, so that's it. I hope that was helpful. I'm not going to say anything more about the website because I'm fed up talking about it. I'm fed up working on it. It's coming. That's all I'm telling you. It's on the way. We're doing our best. So, good luck in the competition, right? If you're not on Instagram, as I say, comment to this post and share it with two of your mates or whatever, and get them, and obviously subscribe to the channel. So thanks, guys. Have a good weekend. I'm due in the tank now at 9:15, and then I'm going to go into town and meet an IT friend of mine, and we're going to work all day on the website. So I have a busy day ahead. But happy times. I'm a lot better, a lot stronger. The long COVID finally is backing off and leaving me alone. So fingers crossed. And if you're out there and you're struggling with long COVID, find a hyperbaric oxygen tank and get yourself in there. And you need to do at least 5 sessions a week, because otherwise it's a waste of time, huh? And money, and it's very expensive. Multiple sclerosis charities, by the way, particularly for the UK fellas who are watching this, if you have trouble after COVID, they have tanks and they'll let you use them. Just, there's a little tip for you for the long COVID crew. So tight lines, everybody, and have a great weekend. And if we don't post tomorrow, we'll talk to you on Monday. Okay, take care. Bye bye.